Twitter. I wanted to talk about this one story from Ukraine quick, because this is really bad. So this is from United 24, but there's other sources reporting on this as well. This is Ukrainian state-affiliated media, but so Pravda has talked about it, New Voice of Ukraine has talked about it, this person's lawyer has talked about it, so it's not like, I just wanted to provide that. It's just this is laid out by them the clearest way. That's why I'm using them as a source. So right here, this is Bogdan, but sorry, it's not Bogdan, but he has the same name that's very similar to Bogdan, but it's like Bogdan. It's basically Bogdan. So this guy was 17 years old and an orphan when he was forcibly resettled to Russia. Now his sister had been, you know, acting as a de facto guardian for him, but once the Russians invaded, they had captured him at some point, and then they forcibly put him in a house with a Russian foster family. One of which, I think one of the parents was like a veteran of the Chechen wars. And so they took him, deported him to Russia, which is already illegal, already against international law. You do not take children and relocate them to the invading country. The international standard is you relocate them to a third-party country if you try to protect their safety, which is the Russian argument. The Russian argument is, no, we're not kidnapping them. We're merely relocating them for their safety. That was their argument. But then after taking them and forcing them into Russia, what do? They force Russian passports on them. They force them to accept Russian passports. If they ever want to move around to any other country, they're going to have to get one. That's the argument from the Russians. That's the argument from the people that they're working with. And so a lot of them end up getting Russian passports in the hope that they'll be able to use it to leave, or in order to cooperate with the demands of the Russians. And so after he is moved to this foster family, after he is given this Russian passport, he then turns 18 because he was kidnapped at the age of 17. And what happens as he's approaching the age of 18? He gets a letter from the military conscription office telling him to come to the local office for a conscription notice. So what they did is they took a minor in Ukraine and kidnapped him. They kidnapped 19.5 thousand people of underage, and that's the ones we know about. There's probably more, but that's the one we know about. Kidnapped them, brings them over to Russia, tries to propagandize them to thinking, oh, you're not Ukrainian, you're Russian, you're Russian, you're Russian. Stop speaking that dumb Ukrainian stuff. Here's a new foster family. Forget about your old parents. Forget about your old parents. Forget about your old life. You're Russia now. And then as those children come of age, as those teenagers come of age, what is the gift Russia gives them? After destroying their home, after kidnapping them, removing them from their friends and family, and forcibly deporting them as a minor to Russia, horribly traumatic experience, they reward them with a conscription notice to go back to the country that they were kidnapped from and kill their neighbors. This is like old style, like crazy ass Viking shit. You kill all the men in the village, take their children and make them in the proper Vikings. Like, what is this? This is insane. And I do want to know, not only is this horribly immoral, but it is against international law to take people in occupied territories and forcibly conscript them. But Russia has been doing that since 2014, and it's only increased the amount they do that since then in 2022. I don't know if you guys remember, but earlier in the war, we were watching videos of fathers being picked up from daycare centers after they drop off their kid in occupied territory, taken by conscription officers and dragged off to be given a uniform and a rifle while they're trying to drop off their kids. This is illegal. It is legal for a state that is the recognized state of a nation, the actual nation, Ukraine, to conscript its own people because it's its own people. You cannot conscript the people of an occupied territory. That is illegal under international law and horribly immoral. But they didn't just do that. They kidnapped the children, brought them to Russia, removed them from their friends and family after bombing their country to hell, gave them no choice in the matter, forced a Russian passport on them, forced them on a family they didn't want, and then at the end of all that trauma, what's their gift? Conscription. Service in the in the Russian army. My God, man. It's horrific. And you know what sucks? Like, what options does this guy have? What option? Is he going to refuse conscription? Could he refuse conscription? What options do people in his position have? Is there going to be a situation where he actually is given a rifle, given a helmet, and marches into Ukraine? That has happened to a lot of people in occupied territories, but this case is especially evil due to the element of kidnapping him from his home as a minor, making him Russian, forcing him to be Russian, and then giving him a rifle. Now, his lawyer is fighting this. They're trying to fight it. They're trying to raise awareness about it. There's attempts to, bring attention to it. He has tried to flee the country multiple times. He tried to, for example, go into Belarus, and he was going to use Belarus to go into another country. But when he tried to do that and flee Russia, he was detained at the border, sent back to his foster parents. So that didn't work either. And so now that he's facing the summons at the conscription office, we need to be confronted with the fact that Russia is kidnapping minors, bringing them back to Russia, forcing them to be Russian, giving them machine guns, then sending them back to kill their native brethren. Horrifically immoral behavior, and it's gotten zero coverage on CNN, zero coverage on MSNBC, zero coverage on any of the major networks, Fox News, and it's just another story of Ukrainian suffering on top of the other pile of stories of Ukrainian suffering. It is so important that English translated media for local Ukrainian outlets exist. We're so thankful for outlets, and I know a lot of the people who are the managing editors at New Voice of Ukraine, good people. So lucky to have publications like New Voice of Ukraine, so lucky to have publications like the Kiev Independent, even if it's state affiliated, so lucky that we have stuff like United 24 that I can at least translate this stuff, since otherwise we wouldn't know about it. It would have just fallen through the cracks of a few Telegram channels and be in the Ukrainian information sphere. But this is the true brutality of Russia's deportation system with Ukrainian children. Their plan is to make good Russian warriors, good Russian participants of the Russian world, whether they like it or not.